Gladys Horiuchi, I apologize if I'm not saying that correctly. Gladys joins us this morning to talk about California's many wine regions. And because we have more national parks than any other state, they surround many of these wine regions. And you can do a trip that combines a little wine tasting.
Talk about pairing.
Yeah, a wine pairing. Patty, I like that. All right, Gladys, welcome to the show.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here.
Gladys, did I say that correctly? Horiuchi?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, great. And you're up in Sonoma County, right?
No, we're based in San Francisco.
Oh, you're in San Francisco today. Okay, great. Well, wonderful to have you on the show. And when I took a look at this report, because I get emails from the Wine Institute from time to time, I saw this one and I thought, well, this makes a great segment for the show. So let's start in the northern top of the state and just work our way down.
Okay.
And we've got Mendocino wine country. Is there anything north of Mendocino wine country?
Well, actually, far north of there is the Humboldt area, and there are a few wineries up there as well, in the Lost Coast. So, but, people, think of going to Mendocino because of some of the movies that have been up there. Anderson Valley's got some great wineries. There's a lot of great wineries up there. People traditionally think of pairing wine and food, but, we started thinking wine and national parks. Hey, that's a good pairing, too.
Yeah, and you have Redwoods National Park, which is in Humboldt County, and it's so beautiful. You just feel like you're on a movie set because it's so otherworldly when you're in the midst of all those redwoods and such. What a great place to bring some great California wine, have a picnic under the redwoods.
That's a great idea. And, Mendocino is on the way, so it's a good way to break up the drive up there if you're driving up there. Mendocino's got a couple hundred wineries up there.
Yeah. I was at one this past summer, if I can suggest a place. It is Pacific Star Winery, owned by Sally Otteson, I believe is the owner. I hope I have the right name, connected with the right winery. But it is right. I mean, it is located on the Mendocino coast. Her tasting area, which is a large outdoor sort of yard, goes up to a fence. On the other side of the fence is the cliffs and the ocean. So you cannot get any closer to the Mendocino coastline while enjoying wonderful Mendocino wines at Pacific Star Winery.
Well, some of the varieties of grapes that do well in cooler weather happen to be wines like Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, and so, of course, a lot of the wineries that specialize in those wines are located all along California's coast, and coming with that is, of course, some spectacular scenery.
Oh, yeah. So
of course.
As you work down a little long, have you been up to Napa, Patty?
Not for a long time. Too long that I can't really count those many years. Gladys, I have a quick question for you. I'm thinking about things to do with my kids, especially kind of some close-to-home stuff so we can do it more spontaneously. An afternoon of wine tasting is typically not something you bring your kids to, because they are like, oh, okay, Mom, what do we get to do? But this idea of pairing national parks and wine is something where fun for grown-ups and kids, right?
Well, of course. And, there are many wineries that are family-friendly, and some of them even serve grape juice and have things that kids can do while the parents want to grab a couple of bottles of wine.
Right.
So it's not unheard of to do that. I mean, there are things like bocce ball and other things that maybe some older kids could enjoy, some of the gardens and some of the other recreational activities. I think even a winery like Clos Les Champs has got a soccer field, and the kids run out there and play soccer while parents might do some wine tasting.
I like that some of the wineries have become dog-friendly, too.
That's true. That's right. The thing is that the majority of these wineries are owned by families, and a lot of the families live on the farm, so they understand that aspect of wine country visiting.
Yeah, a lot of the wineries that I like to go to are owned by families, and the small batch wineries are so fantastic. Now, in the northern half of the state, still, you have, I know the pictures that you sent us to go along with this conversation include Point Reyes National Seashore. I grew up saying Point Reyes, but now I find myself saying Point Reyes. But it's a beautiful national park, national seashore, that's just right there outside of the Sonoma growing region. Oh,
I love that area. That's my stomping grounds. 360-degree views of spectacular coastline, and there's oyster farms and lots of wineries on the way in there. In the Russian River Valley, it's it's one of the roads to get out to Point Reyes, and you'll run past a lot of great wineries like Roscioli, J Winery, Porter Creek, Rodney Strong. A lot of them are involved in sustainable wine growing, and they've got solar arrays and organic grapes, and it's just a really interesting place.
And then Marin County, where I grew up, you hop up and over Mount Tamalpais, and as you're coming down the non-coast side, you hit Muir Woods, which is named after John Muir, and a beautiful redwood grove just 10 minutes from San Francisco.
Maybe more like maybe a half an hour after you wind through all those roads.
It's very windy.
But yeah, that's just trees going up as far as the eye can see practically. So they have a paved area that takes maybe half an hour to walk through that, and then if you want to take a longer hike, there are some hikes that branch off from the park.
Gladys, I'm always, just so you know, always overly optimistic when it comes to travel times. It's always, it's also like 10 minutes, you know? But
well,
as a crow
how
flies,
fast you're driving, but
as a crow flies, it's probably 10 miles from San Francisco, you know, but yeah.
That sounds right, yeah.
Driving distance, you're right, the time-wise would be closer to about a half an hour. And so we've got Muir Woods with the Napa Valley, you paired that. You have Point Reyes with the Sonoma County wine country, Redwoods National Park with Mendocino County wine country, and now it's a growing region, and in fact, they're what's the name of the wine now? A huge festival in the Sierra Foothills that sold out and it was held this month, I believe.
Well, there's the Passport Wine Weekend coming up in June.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that is in Calaveras County, but there are so many wineries up there, and some of the oldest too, because a lot of those wineries were established during the gold rush back in the 1850s. Right. And a lot of those families discovered that the gold was actually in the vineyards for them if they didn't strike it rich.
Right.
I'm thinking of Deaver Vineyards. It's like established in the 1850s, and they've been growing grapes, and then the winery is newer. But there's a lot of great wineries up there specializing in these big, rich reds.
Yeah, Barbera. It just came to me. The Barbera Festival. And I think it's this month. And it sells out almost right away. But so if you're there in the Sierra Foothills, boy, you're surrounded by parks that you can visit.
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking, well, of course, Lake Tahoe is a state park, but it's part of right close to the Tahoe National Forest.
Mm-hmm.
And then even on the way up there, if you're coming from the Bay Area or elsewhere, you have to pass through the Lodi wine region, which surprisingly has 80 wineries there, making some great Zinfandel and other varieties.
Lodi now has 80 wineries. Boy, that region has taken off quite a bit.
Well, it's always traditionally been a grape-growing area, and nobody really knew, but now that they've got wineries, it's sort of given more name recognition to that name.
That's where the 7 deadly zins come from.
I like that one. Yeah, that's good.
It is delicious. We are speaking with Gladys Horiuchi. She is with the Wine Institute up in San Francisco. We've only hit the northern half of the state. We've got Central California and the southern portion of the state as well. Great wine regions all through those, and we will hit those coming up after the commercial break. We are pairing, as Patty Pyburn put it, wines with national parks. It's a good way to go. So Gladys, you don't mind staying on through the commercial break?
Sure.
All right, fantastic, everyone. And welcome back to the show on this Saturday morning. Great to have you joining us for the final segment here of Eat, Drink, Explore Radio. My mom is in town, and we were speaking with her, Patty Pyburn, just a little bit ago.
We have a crowd in the studio.
Yeah, and now my sister, her son, and his good friend just all showed up. So if you've ever seen our overhead cam on Ustream as you're watching the radio show, if you watch it that way, you know that the office is not very large. So we we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people in
our very spacious office here.
Right.
The corner office with the great view.
But our suite, yes. But it's very enjoyable nonetheless. And it's great to be around family and enjoying the wonderful weather we have this weekend. Hopefully you're out having a great time. Why not add a little wine tasting to your weekend?
Why not?
Right? And wine not. Patty, you should be a marketer, I'm telling you. What was the one you said the other day? Oh, the Apple should call it the App.
The App Old Store.
Right. Yeah.
Just a suggestion if Apple's listening.
You've always been very good with those things. All right, so right now we are joined by, and I had it right here.
Gladys
Horiuchi with the Wine Institute. You can get all of the information that you hear here today at wineinstitute.org. Always good information for California's wine industry, and we're discussing pairing a little wine tasting with one of California's many national parks. And sometimes it's a national seashore, sometimes it's a national forest, but you get the idea.
Yes, and we are going to have to make tracks, Randall. We have a lot of territory to cover. If we're going to get to Southern California, because we're still up in the north. Gladys, next stop on our adventure here is Yosemite, and I have to admit, this is like when I lived in Arizona, where I grew up most of my life and didn't visit the Grand Canyon until I moved away. I have not yet made it to Yosemite. I have to make that admission, Gladys.
Well, not to be missed, and certainly, a lot of the Madera Wine Trail and the Fresno area is the gateway to that national park. So you're on their way anyway to get to Yosemite. So it's a nice stop. They have some great wines, particularly some dessert wines, and Moscato has certainly become very popular too. So places like Quade, Ficklin, Birdstone. And Fresno State, surprisingly, has a student program and a farmer's market that sells their wines. So
I was wondering about that, Gladys, because you sent some pictures along, as I had mentioned, and we're showing some of the different screens as we talk about the different areas if you're watching online. But I saw the picture from Fresno State, and it made me instantly think about Cal Poly here, which is right in our backyard. They make a wine. I don't think they sell it at the farmer's market, but you can buy it on campus, right,
Yeah,
Patty?
you can buy the Cal Poly wine, and that's relatively new the last few years.
And it's delicious.
They have a great program, too, and both those schools are very hands-on. And I think even UC Davis has just established a winery, too, for the students to work out of. So, so interesting place.
So whether you are in the Fresno wine-growing region there and heading up to Kings Canyon, Sequoia National Park, Yosemite National Park, you have so much access right there. Or you could head the other direction and hit up at Pinnacles, which is in Monterey County, and then you're even closer access to the Paso Robles region, Edna Valley, and all that.
Right. Of course, there's a Monterey. A good place to hit all the Monterey wineries would be Taste of Monterey. Then you can, taste a lot of wineries. And
when is that?
I think that's in the village of Cannery Row, around there.
Oh, okay. And the Taste of Monterey is an annual event?
No, it's a tasting room.
Oh, I'm sorry, because I'm like, when is that?
It sounded like a festival, right?
It sounds like an event, but it's a tasting room. They've got something like a couple dozen wineries in there.
What a great idea! So that you don't have to head out to each one of the because they have a wine trail there.
But you can maximize your
that's
time.
True. You could do that too. Let's face it. There are so many wineries. You can find them everywhere. There's 3,600 wineries in California.
3,600?
Yes, and grapes are grown in 48 of California's 58 counties. So you can find a winery fairly easily, and most people don't know that California makes 90% of U.S. wine.
90%.
So It's one of our signature industries.
And we've really become an exporter, too.
I think we export about 20% of our production, but truly, it's not necessary because California now, not California, but the U.S. is now the number one wine-consuming nation in the world.
Wow.
And that just happened about 2 years ago.
Offhand, Gladys, do you know the two counties that do not produce wine? Because it might be kind of fun just to plant a couple of grapes in each of those counties.
That would be 10 of them. 10 of them don't.
Oh, 10 of them don't. I see. I thought.
I wonder at what point we'll have to keep an eye on that when there will be grapes in every county.
Right. No kidding. So let's see. We've mentioned Pinnacles. Right in our backyard here, heading down into Santa Barbara wine country, is the Los Padres National Forest with lots of great trails and, in my opinion, some of the best wine country the state has.
They make beautiful wines, particularly Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. And, of course, the movie Sideways put Santa Barbara on the map, and of course, a lot of people like to go see the Sideway wineries, although there are plenty of great wineries there, like Deerberg, Star Lane. Of course, Hitching Post was one of the wineries was in the movie. Zaca Mesa has got an interesting tour that you can take your dogs on a hike, and they'll explain their sustainable practices. A lot of interesting places.
All right, should we head south?
Sure.
Yeah.
We're making tracks onto Southern California, and what do we have there, Gladys?
Well, Temecula wine country, and of course San Diego, they really cater to the Los Angeles market because it's actually Los Angeles could be a great wine country, but of course there's one of the largest wine markets in the world, and so people obviously it's hard to establish wineries there. But Temecula's got about 40 to 60 wineries there, surprisingly, and a lot of great wines because they do get that coastal fog.
Right, and I don't see it on the list here, but boy, the Malibu wine trail is really starting to pick up, and you have, of course, the beautiful Santa Monica Mountains there that you could hike in as well.
That's right. So I'm trying to think of
one of the wineries from there.
Yeah, I can't recall the wineries, but there are like 3 or 4 wineries there, surprisingly.
There are, and Casa du Metz, which is owned by I had him on the show a year and a half ago. The brother, it's the family.
I know who you're talking
Emilio
about.
Estevez. I feel like I'm playing charades here. But
sounds like.
Yes, Emilio Estevez owns Casa du Metz. Du Metz, the original name of, now we call it Point Dume, D-U-M-E, but the original naming of that point was Du Metz, and he wanted to bring back that Spanish heritage with the naming of his winery. And most of the grapes he gets from the San Ynez Valley area. So a great wines being made by Emilio Estevez. All right, so then when you're in Southern California, you can hit up Mojave National Park and all right, I always think this is a made-up name, but it's not. Cucamonga Valley.
Right.
Right. There's some of the first. Of course, the Franciscan Padres established missions, a chain of missions all along the California coast, and that's where some of our winemaking originated. And Mission San Gabriel, I believe, is the oldest. Was the first established winery in the state, and of course, I believe that's in that whole Cucamonga area had one of those missions, and a lot of great history there. And I believe there's a wine history museum there. There's a couple of wineries there, Galliano and J. Filippi. Of course, it's covered over by real estate and housing, but those 2 wineries are still there with a lot of great history.
Well, Gladys Horiuchi with the Wine Institute, people can get all the information they would ever want about California's wine industry by going to.
Actually, I want to give you another website.
Oh, sure.
The wineinstitute.org is more for our wineries and the trade, but the consumer website is at www.discovercaliforniawines.com. And there's a database of wineries, wine regions, links to all the wineries, and you can even search wineries by the various amenities, whether they have a picnic ground or a garden or a sustainable, if they do sustainable organic practices.
Yeah, discovercaliforniawines.com.
Right.
Okay, we will put a link for sure on the website for that. Gladys, thank you so much for being on the show today. We'll have to have you back in the future to discuss more California wines.
Well, it was great fun. Thanks for calling me.
All right, this hour was brought to you by Eberly Winery. It just happened to coincide with a wine segment where you will always find complimentary wine tasting located on Highway 46 East. That is in Paso Robles. Great cave tours there. Make sure you check those out. And you don't pay for wine tasting. I'm glad that there's still some of those wineries around. Log on to eberlywinery.com. That's EBERLE. Patty Pyburn, thank you so much.
Thank you, Randall White.
And we're out of here. Make it a great Saturday, everyone. We'll catch you right back here next
Eat,
week.
Drink, Explore Media is your lifestyle information.